I'm going to make a vegan lasagna. The last one I made called for bell peppers, but some people hate bell peppers, including a family member, so I'm going to do a version without them. And I'll link the other one with the bell peppers for you people that love bell peppers at the bottom of this video. First we have to make the ricotta cheese, and it's going to be vegan. You heard me, vegan cheese. First step, about 1 cup of water. 2/3 cup raw cashews. 2 tablespoons of raw tahini sauce. 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. I'm a big fan of Bragg. 3 tablespoons of agar flakes. Here's the spelling in the packaging material. Pronunciation I'm not really sure about. Is it agar? Agar? Send me a note, let me know. A single 1 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. 1 teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt. 1/8 teaspoon of liquid smoke. I'm eyeballing it with just a few drops. That ought to about do it. It's pretty easy, just put all the ingredients into a blender and blend until you get a really neat creamy consistency. So during the blending process I add a little bit more tahini sauce, nutritional yeast, and a few more raw cashews until I got the consistency that reminds me of a ricotta cheese. And here we go. I'll show the base of the blender so you can see it. Tastes like ricotta cheese too, but it's vegan. On with the next step. By the way, before you get started, you might want to bake a sweet potato for about 45 minutes, and I'm going to have the link to the recipe attached to this video, so you're going to see it anyway. But when the baked potato is, the sweet potato is baking, you can make the ricotta cheese and chop up other vegetables, and so on and so forth to really condense your time and do more in less time. It calls for 10 stalks of asparagus, but I use 15, and you're supposed to cut them in 2-inch segments, like so. 5 or 6 leaves of fresh basil. I'm doing a technique called chiffonade. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but my friend Andrea showed me how to do it. Just roll it up like so and cut it into diagonal slices, thinly. And when you're done, each one of those little slices creates these confectious little ribbon-like deals. Whoops, there we go. It's pretty neat. Now I'm making the actual noodles for the lasagna. It's going to be gluten-free because I'm using squash, zucchini squash, and the yellow squash I've already done, but here's what it looks like. I'm using this little tool that comes in the side of the grater here. Makes it a lot easier. The first time I did this, I did it all by hand with a knife, and it was very cumbersome, but it got the job done. This is much quicker and much more consistent as well with the thickness of the noodles. And here's what the squash zucchini noodles look like. Supposed to be sweet potatoes, but I messed up and got a regular potato, just one. And you just cut it, you bake it first for 45 minutes at 350 so that it's a little soft, and you slice it into paper thin slices long ways, like so. Let's get the baking pan out and start this. Alright, we got our baking dish here. Line it with organic marinara sauce. I'm using a tomato basil at the very bottom. First layer, you alternate between the zucchini noodles and the yellow squash noodles. Piece of cake. Next layer are the potatoes that I just cut into very thin layers long ways. Place some dollops of the ricotta cheese, vegan ricotta cheese, between the potato slices. And after the ricotta cheese, I'm placing asparagus down on the next layer up, and some of these portobello mushrooms. This is the ingredient that I'm swapping out for the bell peppers, are the mushrooms. Sliced. Next is a layer of spinach. A gap-free layer of spinach, or at least relatively gap-free. Spoon the tomato sauce over the layer of spinach, entirely covering the layer of spinach. And then once that's done, you just repeat those same steps for the next layer. This is what it should look like when you're done with the first layer. And now we repeat for the second layer. Sprinkle some of the basil over the top of it. After I do so many layers that I reach the top of my baking dish, and for this particular one, 2 layers did it. Here's what we have so far after sprinkling the basil over the top of it. Now all I have left to do is put the ricotta cheese on top. Just like so. And there you have the final product before it goes into the oven. The recipe that I got that I'll link to this video, it shows pretty much tomato sauce and asparagus and the sprinkled basil on top, but I prefer it like this because it looks more like a traditional lasagna with the ricotta cheese over the top. So let's throw this sucker in the oven. Into the oven it goes for 1 hour at 375. Fresh out of the oven, you can see it's still boiling on the sides there. Gotta let it sit for about 20 to 40 minutes. This is really important, especially with vegan ricotta cheese, so that it sets. Otherwise, if you cut into it like it is now, it's kind of messy and mushy, but after about half hour or so, it's actually got a really good consistency, just like dairy ricotta cheese. The finished cooked product the day after has had a chance to settle. I heated it up for about 20 minutes at 375. It's perfect to cut into. It's got the firmness of a non-vegan lasagna, but it's vegan. Voila! Cuts perfectly.